Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going into PowerPoint. Okay, there we are. Now remember, chroma is the full color, is the full intensity color. A tone is when you add gray to it. A tint, you're adding white. And a shade is you're adding black. So let's say you're working on your second slide, and I'm not going to worry about what size my box is or my little sample here. I'm just going to put a box in. So in PowerPoint, I'll go up to Insert, and you probably already know how to do this, but I'll go through it anyway. Go up to Insert and then Shapes right here, and select a rectangle. And I'm not going to worry about where it's going to be laid out. I'm just going to get the rectangles on here, and I can reshape this later. So the first thing I'm going to do is pick out my color. And you'll notice that there's an outline around this. No outlines, because that will actually distract from the color. So the first thing I'll do is just go back to Home and, oops, I'm sorry, Format. And then you've got Shape Fill right here. Okay, let's say you're doing fuchsia. So, well, let me show you a regular color first, and we'll come back to one of the colors in the Secret Lives of Color book. So I'll just pick red off of the color wheel. So when you go to More Fill Colors, don't use these colors up here, okay, or these. Okay, these are ones I've already selected. Go to More Fill Colors, and red is going to be all the way up in this corner. When you drag this little crosshair across the top, those are your full intensity colors. Those are full chroma. Down in here is where it starts changing. Okay. Another way you can know that you have full chroma is when you look down here where it says red, green, and blue. Those are the three colors that a computer uses, the little dots on the screen that you can't even see unless you get up real close to it. But there's 3 dots of each of those colors, and they make up all the other colors. Okay. If you put 255 across the top and the rest of these 0, that will be a full chroma red. So if you just move it up there and these numbers are kind of a little bit different, it won't be full chroma. Okay. Now, none of your colors in that Secret Lives of Color book are probably full chroma, but I'm going to show you this anyway. So 255, 0, and 0. If you want to do a full chroma blue, I'll show you that in a second, but I know that the primary colors, if you come down here and do 255 and then 0 for the other ones, whoops, just type it in. That's a full chroma blue. There's the blue you get, okay? So let's go back to that red. That's going to be the easiest one to demonstrate. Okay, that would be my full chroma example on your PowerPoint. Okay, then you can see where you want to get rid of that outline. That takes away from the color. So just go back up to the Format, and you'll have Shape Outline, and you go to No Outline. Okay. So I want to start out with, I want 4 of these boxes. Or like paint chips, okay, color samples. So I got 4 of them right here. So you want to start out with each one of these as full chroma. And I'm going to leave them separated for right now, and I'll lay it out later. Okay, this one I'm done with, obviously. The next one you'll do is the tint. And we want to organize it so there's the maximum contrast between them. So I think this will work out. You can arrange it however you want to, I guess. So I'm going to select this one, and I'll create a tint. Go back up to Format and Shape Fill. Go to More Fill Colors. And again, don't use this. This, you're just guessing at these different colors, okay? You know, you get over into here, and you're going to be adding some blue to it. You don't want any blue. All you want is white. Okay, so go to Custom. I'm at my full intensity, full chroma. This slider bar, as I slide that up, I'm adding white to it, just as if I was adding paint to this. Okay, I'm adding white. And you can see right down here, you'll see the difference. You'll see the change. See the tint? How it's trending toward white. Okay. Don't pick one too light because it's going to wash out somewhere, and you don't want it too close where you can barely tell the difference. Somewhere in here where there's a little bit of contrast. You can see it trending toward white. Okay, there's my tint. The next one I'll do is the shade. That's where you add black to it. Up to format, and you've got shade fill, more fill colors. Again, don't use this one, use custom. And the slider bar will take you down toward the shade. You're just adding black to this. You can see how it starts to change immediately. You know, even if I go all the way down here, it may look black, but there's still red in it. Okay. There's still red in this. It's kind of a reddish black. So don't go too dark and don't make it so that you can't see the difference. You know, somewhere about in here. That's a nice way to make brown by adding black to red. You get brown, or a burnt brown, if you want to call it, a burnt red. Okay, the last one will be a shade, and that's where you add gray to it, and that one's a little tricky. More fill colors. So we want to put this right back in the full intensity. So really this should be back up to 255. That's my full chroma. So you want to start with full chroma. Whoops, I just messed up. I had the shade selected. That's why it was off. There we go. So that should start out at 255 full chroma. So as I drag this little slider bar, see it right here? That's up in that corner. As I slide that up and down vertically, try to keep it perfectly vertically, that will be adding gray to it. So I'm going to just slide this down, and notice in here how the color is trending toward gray. See it? I'm losing the intensity. There's not much red left in that, is there? Although you can kind of see a little bit of red, but I'll put that right about in the middle. Let's try that and see how it compares to the shade. So that's the tone. Okay, I've got chroma, full chroma, tint, shade, and tone. That's full chroma, adding white, adding black, adding gray. Now these two, when you view this PowerPoint, you may not see much of a difference. I don't see much of a difference either. So just for the sake of the layout and everything, make it look a little better. Let's make that a little more, add a little more gray to it, just so there's a little more of a difference. Now, I don't want to go all the way down to the bottom. Then it's gray without hardly any red at all to it. But if I bring it up here, I can start to see red appear in there. Okay, that's good. When you do this on your screen, it'll probably look better than this does on your screen. But I can see that's got some red in it. Okay, I can see the reddish tone to it. So gray is tone, black is shade, white is tint, and then full chroma. So you can tweak these a little bit. You just want to have some contrast between the four. Okay, so when you do your layout, if you just push these up against each other so they're nice and lined up, put a selection box around it, just with your arrow. Now they're all selected. Let's group these. If I go back up to format again, way over here is an icon that says group, and select group. Okay. Now I can move this whole thing around as a group, and I don't have to keep relaying out all four of these. So at this point, now I've got some flexibility. Say you want your swatches along the side, I can resize this to whatever I want, and it'll resize as a group. If I want it along the top, I can keep it selected as a group, and this little button up here, I can rotate that. And then maybe you want it at the top. And maybe that's all the bigger you want. Maybe your chair sticks up into here, you know. But, you know, not that big. That's too small to really see what's going on. for the presentation. You don't want something big enough. You want to go all the way across the top, that's fine. Okay. Then you got room for the chair and your other little things down here. If you want to put it at the bottom, however you want to do it. Okay. This is your first lesson. If you look at this, now, you know, in an interior, you may not want to use bright red except maybe on throw pillows, or maybe the seats, or maybe there's a vase or two that is the full chroma red. And maybe this is the color of your wall. But this is a good way to start out with a palette, is just using one color and using the shade, tint, and tone. Now I've got 4 colors to work with, some variety. I've got some contrast. Okay, that's one way. Remember we talked about the big 4, how do you know what colors to pick? This is one way to pick out a palette, just starting with one color and then varying these to get the right balance. You know, I could tweak these a little more if I want to. Maybe that's a little too dark, I don't know. Okay, so that's how you create your color swatches for the tone, tint, shade, and full chroma. Now, let's say you're going to do the color fuchsia. Well, how do I get a fuchsia that looks like what you saw in the book? Okay, let me go down, and I'm going to stop this share for a second. And I'm going to go back and share the internet. Okay, I've got the internet, and I'm going to type in and use the color name that's in the book. I'm going to put in RGB. Those are the 3 colors that a computer uses. And mine already popped up because I did this once. Color components for fuchsia. Okay. And right over here, now every color may not come out like this, but if you look at the websites, what you want is a site or a chart somewhere that shows the RGB colors. See this RGB decimal? Don't use percentage. This is the one we want. See that 255? That's the number I used before. That's as high as it goes. So this shows the RGB. There's R 255, the red. G green is 0, and the blue is 255. That creates fuchsia. So you can do this for every one of your colors. You're not going to be guessing at it. Okay. You may type in some other weird color name. You may have to go down a couple to find those numbers in RGB. Okay. So I know basically my formula. Okay, I found my formula. 255, 0, 255 RGB. I'm going to share the other PowerPoint. I'll just start with a new shape here. And remember, you want to get rid of the outline. And let's make that fuchsia. More full colors. So 255, that's red, green, and blue. 255. And there are other color building models. Photoshop has a couple different ways, but it's going to be kind of the same as this with slider bars, and there's RGB, there's CMYK, which is a different color model we'll discuss later. 0. Okay, there's fuchsia. Okay, by a formula. Okay. And then it's just a matter of going through just like I did with the red. I'll do it real quick here. So I need 4 of these. Remember, you got to start out with the full chroma color each time. That one I leave alone, the full chroma. Next comes the tint. Go to custom. Remember, tint is adding white. We're just sliding that up. How do you get pink? Okay. The next one, will be a shade. A shade adds black. You know, again, don't go too deep because it's going to turn virtually black. So you want it to be noticeably darker. That's trending toward the black. You know, like that's not enough. That's too much. Right about in here, just for the sake of this project. It's still a nice, rich color. I love that color right here. It's amazing what black does, adding just a little bit of black to color. Gives it a richness. And the last one is tone, adding gray. Now, this is the tricky part because you got to keep this slider going straight down. You don't want to veer off into the blue or veer off into the red. Now, you can't see this, but I'm holding a piece of paper on my screen, and I'm taking a little marker, and I'm putting a dot. I wish you could see this, but I'm just using a piece of paper as a guide, straight down from that little crosshair, and I'm putting a little dot on my screen. I can barely even see it, and you can't see it. But right about in here, I've got a little tiny dot with my marker. You can barely even see it. So now I know I'm going to come straight down. So if I veer off, I can always get back to that point. Right there is where my dot was. And then you can kind of play around with it. Let's go a little bit more to the gray. So it starts trending more gray right about there. Okay. Full chroma, tint, white, shade, black, tone, gray. Now, I love this color. Look how the richness of that. And it's not, you know, this is so, in certain applications, it's amateur. It's just it's like the color right out of the tube, you know, without any nuance. All these colors have nuance. So there I built another palette using fuchsia as my main color. You know, I can conceive of this being a planter or maybe some pillows or some kind of an accent. Maybe the wall is this color. Maybe I've got some furniture that is this color. So there's a palette I've built. And then you can group this together like you did the thing, the red. Go to format, group, and then I can start laying it out. Okay. Oh, I forgot to bring those colors touching. I think it looks better if they touch because then you see the contrast better. White changes the perception of the color, so get rid of all the white around it. Okay, so that concludes that. That's how you create tones, tints, shades, and chroma in PowerPoint. And I know in Word, it's just about the same way. I like using PowerPoint. It seems like it's a little easier to move boxes and things around. PowerPoint has margins and they kind of want to jump off the page and that sort of thing. Plus PowerPoint is what you're using anyway. So that's it. If you have any questions, just rewatch the video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in class.